everyone, welcome to this week's Halton Hills Housing Update. So the same trend is continuing that's been going on where we are seeing not high sales, high new listings, but so many houses coming off the market. And it's really kind of skewing the numbers. But anyways, let's look at them. In Georgetown last week, we had 7 sales, which is a pretty low number for Georgetown, and we had 14 new listings. So you see there's a gap there, which means our inventory should be rising. But you'll see when I talk about the numbers later, that is not the case. And it's the same with pretty much all the markets that we're looking at this week. So in Acton this week, we had 3 sales, which is great news for Acton. Again, they had a very rough few months there where we were seeing like no sales in Acton. In the last few weeks, we've seen them picking back up again. And again, it's their lower ticket stuff, like under that 900,000 is really what's moving in Acton, but it's good to see sales there again. And we had 5 new listings, so seeing new stuff coming on. Glen Williams, Limehouse, and the rural market all had no sales last week. Glen Williams had 1 new listing, Limehouse had none, and the rural market had 2. So now what I want to talk about is the terminated and expired listings that are going off the market and they are not coming back on. So what I do each week is I look at what properties updated as expired, terminated, or suspended. And then when I look at the new listings for the week, I remove those properties because they're not actually new listings hitting the market. They're just playing with their price or they're playing with the listing to refresh it. So I don't consider them new. I don't want to skew the numbers, right? So last week there was 21 properties that fell in that expired, terminated pocket. Of the 21, only 7 of them came back on the market. So 14 properties terminated or expired and completely went off the market. So despite the fact that we are seeing our new listings outpace our sales, when we have 14 properties coming off the market, that simply is going to keep our inventory very low. So that's sort of what I've been talking about how these properties are they're kind of skewing our market. I mean, we should be seeing inventory rising, but it's just not the case. And so things are staying pretty stable. So in Halton Hills this week, we are down to 151 active listings, and last week was 154. So you can just see how all these numbers are sort of getting skewed by those properties. Looking at Georgetown, we were at 92 last week. We are down to 90 active listings. So despite a huge gap between sales and new listings, our inventory went the opposite way that it should. So looking at active price points, under 800,000 went from 13 down to 11. 800 to $1 million is up slightly from 17 to 18 active listings. 1 to 1.5 million, they saw a big drop this week, and a bunch of those 14 that came off were in this pocket. So last week they were at 36, we're down to 32 active listings in that price point, and that price point again has been feeling such a saturation, and so I think some people just aren't even getting close to what they want to be getting based on, again, people living in the past. And so that price point saw a drop this week. 1.5 million plus remain the same this week at 29 active listings. We have a ton of inventory in that pocket, and there's just not a lot of buyers willing to buy properties there right now. It's a lot of money, especially at today's interest rates. So not great news for the higher end sellers, especially because a bunch of them came off the market. They're like, ugh, this is not going well. So that's sort of what's happening there. Acton this week, inventory remained the same at 24 active listings. Glen Williams remained the same at 8. Limehouse is down slightly to 4. They had one of the terminations. And the rural market remained the same this week, also at 25 active listings. So I hope that these numbers sort of give you a snapshot into why we're seeing such a stable market in terms of our numbers. Normally in November, December, we start to see new listings slow down by like the 3rd week of November, and December's very slow for listings. But then we have buyers still active in the market. They usually sort of buy up the inventory slowly through November, December, And we typically go into January with very low inventory levels. You might remember last January, there was at one point 11 or 9, I can't think right now. It was for sure 11. I'm pretty sure we got to 9 one week. Active listings in all of Georgetown. And Halton Hills was at like 34. So that just shows you what it's like normally going into a January. I mean, last year was exceptionally low, but like we usually go into January with relatively low inventory. I'm interested to see what happens here with the market through the next, 60 days. Normally we will see listings slow down, but we will still see buyers active. If we see listings slow down and buyers completely stop, we're going to be kind of in a standstill. But another interest rate hike might be coming, so that might keep buyers kind of moving along. It's going to be really interesting. We haven't followed a lot of our normal trends for the last 3 years, so let's see what happens. But that's where our numbers stand, and that's why we are not seeing a huge amount of inventory like rising, because people are just taking their properties off the market, and that's keeping things kind of cool. So anyways, it's just interesting to me. Lots of talking about numbers today. So I will be back next Tuesday. Have a great week, everyone.